It's Monday morning. Garland Nixon here, and we're hanging out with Laith Marouf. We're going to find out live from Beirut what's happening. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon, and we are with the one and only Laith Marouf. And boy, there's a whole lot going on right now. I got a lot of questions to ask him, the perspective from the region, and certainly we're going to let him, take us wherever we need to go. But let's start, obviously, with you are in Lebanon. The Israelis are doing their usual when they get battered and bruised on the battlefield. From what I understand, they're taking quite a hiding, as George Galloway would say. But of course, then they respond by attacking civilian targets. Laith Marouf, what's going on in Lebanon?
Yeah, definitely. The Zionists have got us all used to them targeting schools, hospitals, refugees, homes, killing children and women and elderly. This is what they excel at. And this is, as you were saying, they were getting a hiding in South Lebanon on the border. Therefore, they decided to go wild as usual. They attacked a paramedic center in the south of Lebanon, killing 13 medics and doctors in one blow. This now brings the number of health workers that were martyred in South Lebanon since the beginning of this round of the war, meaning 12 days, whatever it is, 13 days, up to 30 somewhat medical workers killed. There's been attacks on multiple hospitals, multiple clinics. Also, we saw a couple of days ago the Zionists attacking the Christian neighborhood in Nabatiyah city in the south. In fact, hitting the Catholic school with a direct missile on the enclosed gym for the students. Luckily, of course, all the students are not going to school because everybody's online. There was an attack on the public beach in Beirut. It's called the Ramle Beida. It's in the middle of the city. It's the only public beach in the city. And there's a lot of refugees that have set up tents and a lot of people that in the evening go out to the beach, sit down and smoke a shisha or, chat with their friends. And that was a massacre very similar to the Zionist massacres in Gaza, targeting the refugee camps, the tents. So, this is the basics of the crimes they're committing. Every day they're attacking homes, killing civilians. In terms of the battle in the south of Lebanon, because we keep on hearing the Israelis saying that they're invading. They've prepared and they are invading. This is now 12 days. We've heard it 4 times, including yesterday, saying they're ready and they're invading, that they have 200,000 troops on the border, and that they are actually going to call in 500,000 troops, which would be the largest number of troops that Israel ever called into service in its history. But over the last 12, 13 days of their attempted invasion, they've been repelled over and over and over again from point zero confrontations with the resistance in an area that is totally destroyed. All the frontline villages in the south are totally destroyed. There's no vegetation cover because the Zionists burned it down with Agent White and phosphorus and what have you, or bulldozed it. And they're still unable to enter any of these villages because Hezbollah is facing them from 0 point, and they are getting repelled. There's one major axis that they're trying to invade from, which is around Al Khiyam village, and this is, now we know with visual confirmation that they've lost over the last week at least 12 tanks in Al Khiyam battle. Yesterday, they began firing extensive amounts of white phosphorus over Al Khiyam to attempt to invade again, and they still lost and they were repelled. So I don't think the Zionists have the capability to occupy South Lebanon. And remember, Hezbollah doesn't really need to fight these Zionists from point zero in these villages. These are villages that are, lost already. And Hezbollah could have decided to let the Zionists go into these destroyed villages and then just bombard them from far away, doing like a burnt field, or I'm not sure what's the term in English, like a burnt earth policy, and just burn the ground on top of them. And it would have saved itself this hassle of having to go face to face with the Zionists. But Hezbollah is deciding on purpose to face these Zionists from point zero, to mark it on their forehead that they cannot even enter 1 inch of Lebanon without losing huge amounts of equipment and personnel. And the last thing I would say about South Lebanon is that on the far eastern front of Lebanon, the corner where Syria, Lebanon, and occupied Palestine meet, there's the Shab'a Farms. This is like a little village in the foothills of the Golans, and it's very, very isolated. It's like an island situation. There's only one way to go into the village from Lebanon. And the Zionists have been attempting also to enter there, and they haven't been successful. So last night, yesterday actually, they imported Wahhabi death squads from Al-Julani special forces, the red bandanas, made them cross the occupied Golan Heights to reach the entrance of the village of Shab'a to fight on their behalf, on the behalf of the Zionists. And they got a whipping. I don't think there's any one of them alive still, of those red bandanas. So look at this, Al-Julani has abandoned the Golan Heights, allowed the Israelis to occupy more parts of Israel, of Syria, and now his troops are entering the Golan, not to liberate it, but to cross it to attack Hezbollah fighters and the Lebanese people, and they're still getting a whipping, and the Israelis are not going to even thank him for what he just did.
Wow. I understand there are some protests in Syria against the Jolani government. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, there's beginnings of protests because right now Al-Julani is promising to, defend whatever countries around against Iran. Okay, so clearly he's doing the work of the Zionists and the Gulf despots. But, the Wahhabi death squads under Al-Julani's rule are just around, just below 30,000 fighters. There's not enough of them to be a police force inside Syria, even to direct traffic, right? So the minute he moves these troops to the borders of Lebanon, as he is doing right now, whether it's on the borders with the Beqa or as I just explained, in the Golan Heights, then there's literally nobody that can control the major cities and the major highways and the regions. So the minute he does this and withdraws some of his Wahhabi death squads from the streets, people are getting the courage to begin to demonstrate again. Another thing that is very important to notice is that Syria is also already was suffering from shortages in oil and gas and electricity. And the majority of the oil and gas that was going into Syria was coming smuggled from Lebanon with Hezbollah's approval. That all stopped right now. Lebanon needs its own gas and oil as the reserves are running out with the blockade of transport of oil and gas from the Gulf. So we're seeing the living situation inside Syria collapsing beyond what was already a disaster, right? So the longer this goes, the bigger chance there is for a mass revolt in Syria. And the only affordable thing in Syria is not food, is actually bullets. All the storage houses of the Syrian military were emptied, and they're all like full in the streets right now. So we should be expecting, if this war continues this way, and if al-Julani actually does the stupid thing of trying to attack Lebanon, that there will be a mass revolt in Syria, and I don't think anybody can save al-Julani at that point.
Axios report, I want to get your comment on it. Breaking behind the scenes. I read the article, so I know it's true. Behind the scenes, the Iran war is the first time that Trump's style has made it impossible for him to easily get out of a situation by talking or improvising. Well, I would disagree with that. It ain't his style. That's causing him not to get out of it. But anyway, some of those close to him feel what one official described as buyer's remorse. Growing concerns that attacking Iran was a mistake. You think? You're getting a whipping. You're what's interesting is you and I talk, and I've been consistent. I've said this. If U.S. attacks Iran, that's it for the U.S. empire. It's over. It's done. It's finished. The empire's, that's the last straw. They're gonna get the whole empire is gonna fall. So now it's like, yeah, gee, perhaps in hindsight it wasn't such a great idea. Maybe we should have went in another direction. Maybe get your comments on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the style of Trump was to confuse the audience always. This is his style. He would like flip-flop from things. He would just throw in subjects that are not even in the question and just confuse the public in the United States. And it was working for the majority. But now there is a glaring, undeniable truth that everybody's watching, the destruction of American bases in the region and the continuation of Iran's missile and drone attacks on the vassals of the United States. It's like when the Zionists were lying about the broadcasted genocide. It doesn't matter if the messaging of the Zionists was better than the messaging of Trump. The truth was, slapping everybody in the face. It was like you couldn't deny it. So similarly, this is what's happening. If before Trump's policy of confusing the audience was working, because the truth was not clear in any other platform or from other players, well, right now the truth is very clear. The United States is getting a whipping. And him flipping around is not going to help. And the fact that he already said 10 times we destroyed Iran's military capabilities in these 15, 16 days is just makes it worse and worse for him as a propaganda ploy. So buyer's remorse. Well, maybe they're right to use that term as buyers. I don't know about remorse. There's no remorse in the hearts of these pedophile cannibalists, okay? But they are buyers, and they paid for this lunatic called Trump to become the president of the United States. Yeah, so buyers thinking, that whatever they bought is not the product they expected. Well, I doubt that. They really wanted that product. They've spent billions of dollars to get Trump elected, and of course this is not to let down the Democrats. They're as purchasable as the Republicans.
Yeah, in fact, Kamala Harris, send me if I can find it, all options on the table. Iran. Let me see if I can see that real quick. So here we go. Oops. As if people think that somehow it's Trump. Let me show you this. Just so people are like, oh, if only Harris would have won, we'd all be. All options are on the table to keep Iran from going nuclear, Kamala Harris says in high holiday call with Jewish voters. The phrase is understood as encompassing potential military action. So for those who somehow think that, it would have made a difference, oh, if only the Democrats had won, here's the reality. These people are puppets. And the puppet masters, or better yet, they're monkeys, and the organ grinder controls the monkeys. The monkeys does not control the organ grinder. When the organ grinder says run around, pick up the change, or do whatever, the monkeys are going to jump all over the place and do it. All we're looking is which monkey you want. And right now, it seems to me that Iran is saying we're going to beat up the monkeys and let the organ grinders, deal with that later on. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, Iran is definitely, not paying any attention to either the propaganda that's coming out from the U.S. or anybody who's asking them to come and negotiate now for a ceasefire. Iran has decided they don't want to live this situation ever again. And the only way that you can guarantee that is to force the United States out of the region and to end the existence of the Zionist colony. And that's happening. Right now, we're still in, I think, the first stage, by the way, of this war. And the next stage is coming in the next few days. We will see the second stage where Ansarullah in Yemen will enter this battle, where the French, the Italians, the British will also enter the battle on the side of the United States. Don't pay attention to their denials that they're not involved or they don't want to be involved. They're fully involved from day one. The bank of targets will expand westward, will include, up until now, the Iranians have decided to not touch the Yanbu export port on the Red Sea. Yanbu is the main refinery and export point for the Saudi oil on the Red Sea, where right now the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Bahrainis are pumping their oil and gas through those pipelines all the way to the Red Sea, and still Saudi Arabia is exporting, even with all the crash and the rise in prices of oil. Saudi Arabia is still exporting just under 90% of its oil from the Yanbu port, and up until now, Iran has been nice and didn't touch it. But the minute Yemen gets involved, the minute the missiles and cruise missiles and what have you start firing from the Red Sea ships, NATO ships on Iran, that port will be destroyed. And Ansarullah in Yemen will shut down Bab al-Mandeb. And then it will become not an issue of only oil. The issue is all trade. Anything that's going to come from Europe to East Asia or East Asia to Europe will have to go all around all of Africa. Okay, forget the oil and gas coming out of the Hormuz. Bab al-Mandeb, closing it, will mean total collapse of export capabilities of Europe. Okay, I'm presuming the Yemenis will let the Chinese ships go through as the Iranians have done, right? So they're not going to harm the Chinese economy, but definitely the Europeans will have to squeal like the little piggies they are. If you want to be a little piggy in an animal farm run by the pedophiles and cannibalists, well, you must be treated as a piggy by the rest of the farmers around, okay? And this is what's, I think, the next stage that's going to come is the expansion westward towards the western coast of Saudi, towards Cyprus. We just had a statement by the Prime Minister of the UK saying that they have 3 squadrons of fighter jets in Cyprus and multiple destroyers there to defend NATO and so on. Well, it's time for them to be destroyed, and for the United Kingdom to actually fit its true geographic size, and cease to talk as if it's an empire.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that we've seen here recently, and I want to get your thoughts in it, is, there's AI videos coming up of Benjamin Netanyahu. He's got too many fingers in one. He's got a magic coffee cup in the other, where you can like pretty much turn it upside down. No water comes out. I'm looking and I'm thinking, that's what is this, a magic show? Is he David Copperfield now? But there is a great speculation, shall we say. Rumors have it that the Iranians have a significant amount of intelligence, and somehow they found that there was a bunker or home meeting with the Israeli leadership, and a hypersonic missile found its way to that. Then there was some kind of a decapitation strike. We don't know. Because here's the other part. If I were Israel or the United States, I'd make them disappear, and I'd make sure everybody thought they were dead. That way you wouldn't be trying to kill them if you thought they were dead. So I'd understand they may be dead. They may be in hiding and trying to pretend like they're dead so they won't get killed. But here's my point. Kushner and Witkoff were heading in. They turned around, they left. They were heading to Israel, and then we heard, oh, they left. My point is, whether they're alive or dead, the U.S. empire for years has said, we'll track you by your cell phone. We'll send a drone in, and we can drone somebody and take them out. We can do decapitation strikes. We can take out leaders. Oh, by the way, let me add this. Trump officials in this area have now moved into military bases for protection. The shoe is on the other foot. Now the U.S. and Israel are looking over their shoulders. Now they're saying, oh my gosh, there's someone else that has the technical capacity to hunt us down and kill us the same way we've done to other people. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're right that this could be just a ruse, on the one hand, to fill the social media with false information and everybody debating issues that are not the crucial issues in this battle. On the other, as you said, it could be to make the Iranians stop looking for him. There's been many assassinations that the Zionists conducted against leadership in the region, and every time Netanyahu was coming out on the media on a daily basis, to the Western media, during the 12-day war, after the assassination of Nasrallah, after the assassination of Raisi and Haniyeh and Sinwar. So it feels strange given the pattern before. Okay, so in my opinion, either he is actually dead, and that's true also for Ben Gvir and Smotrich, we haven't seen in almost a week also, and or they are hiding in a place that they cannot step out, because they know that the minute they step out, they're going to be exposed to be targeted. So either they're in a nuclear bunker somewhere, or already extracted and are sitting in the base in Cyprus, for instance, or in Soda Bay in Greece. But they are not going to show their face, because the Iranian missiles reach Greece and reach Cyprus. Therefore, they're like keeping it ambiguous. That's the only other logical explanation for their disappearance from the scene for the last almost week.
The other thing that's getting to be, look, I'm not happy about war. I'm not celebrating. It's terrible. People are dying or what have you, but these are things that we have to talk about. So I don't want anybody to think I'm celebrating anything. It's terrible, and I want wars to be ended. And sadly, the only thing that could happen with the U.S. that was out of control is that it was going to run into the wrong, pick a fight with the wrong person, and that appears to have happened. One of the things that's interesting is the inability of the U.S. to admit any losses, that like we lost, here's what I don't understand. What we were told is the Iranians had protests, and the Iranian military killed 30,000 protesters in like 3 days. We've been getting bombed nonstop for 3 weeks here, and we've lost 6 or 10 people. It's absurd. We have mysterious laundry room fires. And it's coincidentally when every time the Iranians say, "Hey, we hit that ship with a missile," they never touched us. But there was a fire in the laundry room. Perhaps somebody was smoking in a bed. All we get is these excuses. Somebody slipped on a banana peel, tripped, got confused. They were, oh, we lost another soldier. He was sleepwalking in the middle of the night, walked over the side of the ship. I mean, we're the most unlucky military on earth, but Iran never, ever lays a glove on us. I think it's starting to look preposterous.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, like those fighter jets on top of the aircraft carriers were just,
Yeah, they slipped
ice
overboard.
skating. They were ice skating, and they just slipped off the rink or something. It's hilarious. 3 F-18s in one day. Up until now, by the way, it's 300 drones. But from the top quality MQ-9s and the Israeli Hermes 900 and others that Iran has shut down. I don't know how much the U.S. has left of these, top tier drones. The Abraham Lincoln hasn't come back to the scene. So it's definitely damaged. Gerald Ford right now will be easily targeted by Iran and or Yemen if it is engaging. I think, whatever comes, French or British or whatever ships that come to the region will also suffer the same fate. The United States right now, this defeat, will be the nail in the coffin of the empire. Iran is emerging as a superpower because of this. And I think at the end of this war, if we're still all alive and nobody uses nukes, this will uplift also North Korea and Belarus to the category of the top 10 countries in the world in terms of power. The strategies of Iran and their tactics will be taught for the next 100 years in military schools, how to defend yourself against a superpower. I think what we see right now happening will expand till the end of April. We're March now. Yeah, till the end of April, where this war will continue at this pace, a little bit higher. It will expand a little bit wider. And at the end of this April, so that will be like the 2 months mark, this is where there will be a fork in the road. Either the United States admits defeat, packs up and leaves, and all the vassals in the region will collapse simultaneously, including the Zionist colony. Somebody will have to tell them to pack their nukes with them and take them to Europe or the United States, or we will see the use of nuclear weapons, and then we will be in a world war, and God knows if humanity will survive that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what's interesting is the dynamics of response in the United States. And this is what I've said about a world war. I don't know how they could do it. I mean, if they wanted to do like a traditional world war, if they tried to draft people, I've said this for a while, and especially now, if they try to draft here, this country get burned to the ground. There ain't no way in the world these young people would fight for Israel. They already screamed. We got people in the military saying, how can I be a conscientious objector? How can I get out? The government has strayed so far from the American people that any attempt to drag the American people into some, a disastrous war what it would result in would be government economic collapse here, which I think economic collapse is coming anyway. We see the same thing in Europe, where the leadership in Europe and the leadership in the US has gone so far from the American people or the European people. They just could care less about the people anymore. The people have no input. This is just pure, I don't know what you want to call it, but fascism. But I would say this, if they try to turn this into some kind of, we're going to draft people and start a war, there would be an implosion, an internal collapse. And I think that is the road we're heading towards, is some kind of internal collapse or internal implosion. That's the direction we're going. If people wake up and gas is $10, $12 a gallon here in the United States, and they don't have any in Europe that they can buy at any price, at some point you get some kind of an internal implosion, uprising.
Yeah, $5 a gallon is the price right now in most states in the U.S., and this is even with the American government forcing the companies to keep the price unified and not to gouge everybody. And we're still, again, as I said, 90% of Saudi exports are still allowed by Iran to go through the Red Sea. So I think we may see the barrel go up to $200, $250 a barrel in the next 2-3 weeks as this continues. The prices, of course, of all foods and anything that has any oil byproduct in it. I mean, people don't realize it's not just the gasoline or the diesel in your car. It's every paint in your house, anything that is covering materials on the wood, on the laptop, the plastics, it's a never-ending list. Fertilizers, never-ending list of things that come out of the oil byproducts that will disrupt whole chains of production. I mean, who will be able to pick the fields, wheat and corn and so on? Are they going to let in all the Mexicans they deported in the U.S. to pick them? What's happening here? So no, the situation is dire, and I think Iran should squeeze more. 100 years there hasn't been one revolution in any Western country. The Western public, although they're opposed to the genocide in Gaza, the vast majority of them just sat and watched or came out to ridiculous demonstrations that do nothing. And then all of our public in the West watched as their elite are exposed as pedophile, cannibalist, satanic, and they sat on their behind and did nothing. So I think the only thing they may force the Western citizens to take their responsibility seriously, to rein in their governments and may force them to represent them and represent the betterment of humanity, is for Iran to squeeze the world economy and let the freedom of the people in our region here be connected to the food on the table that is feeding the children of American citizens and European citizens. Once these European citizens and American citizens are unable to feed their children, they will have the incentive to rise up against their genocidal regimes, and that's going to be the freedom of them and us.
One of the things that's interesting is I think the U.S. underestimated the strength and the resolve of the Iraqi resistance. They apparently have some kind of very highly technical, powerful air defense system. I've read that they shot down an F-15 apparently recently. Well, now two KC-135 strato tankers mysteriously at exactly the same time had some kind of a technical problem that caused them to bump into each other. One of them went down and crashed, and one of them made it back to base.
They were just trying to kiss, in the air, but it didn't work out.
With just another one of those unfortunate mishaps that the United States seems to be experiencing on a daily basis, as the Iranians never lay a glove on them, never touch them. But every now and then they have an unlucky mishap, apparently, and this was one of them. And the Iraqi resistance apparently is hitting bases and embassies, etc. Now I've been reading, you have to verify these things, but I've been reading here and there that the Americans are saying everybody out of Iraq, all Americans leave Iraq as quickly as possible. It appears that Iraq is, shall we say, a no-go zone for Americans again, and they're being ejected from that.
Yeah, the Iraqi resistance issued a statement last night uh, speaking to Iraqi soldiers and Iraqi military officials, asking them to not be around positions where American and Western troops are, the hotels they're staying in, the bases, and so on, because they do not want to harm their compatriots and Iraqi military forces. And we are already seeing the Iraqi military forces that usually are positioned around American bases withdrawing from their locations. So this is, this came after the Iraqi resistance released a video from a drone that was literally going in circles and taking its time and visiting every building, almost looking through its door in the largest American base in Iraq. I couldn't believe it. It was like going on for, the video was like 8 minutes long. It was flying over the whole base, going down and up, like looking into the main doors of the barracks and so forth as it's flying. And then they made this statement, the Iraqi resistance. And so we know that the drones that the Iraqi resistance are using will be hitting their targets with ease. And the American and Israeli bases and NATO bases in Iraqi Kurdistan have been the major target over the last 5 days. There's practically nothing left of them. The main base in Erbil airport, the American consulate in Kurdistan, Iraq, all the bases of the Kurdish militias that were gathering to supposedly attack Iran were also destroyed and targeted by both the Iraqi resistance and the Iranians. We also saw the attacks on the American embassy in Baghdad, where these drones hit the radar installations and the air defenses in the area of the American embassy. So now the American embassy in Baghdad is kind of naked, so they can destroy it at any moment. And so this is one thing that the Iraqi resistance is doing. The other thing that they are doing is that they've sent a message threatening al-Jolani in Syria, if he attempts to invade Lebanon, that they will just invade Syria. And they will have an easy time because he would have withdrawn all the way to the west of Syria, and the Syrian borders with Iraq would be porous and easy to infiltrate, and there will be nobody defending that flank. The U.S. is already withdrawn from there. So I think there's a huge role for the Iraqi resistance, even more crucial to the development of this war than during the genocide in Gaza, when the Iraqi resistance was also involved in.
Have you heard anything about? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about. Hezbollah. Over the course of ever since the pager incident and the killing of Nasrallah, what we were told was Hezbollah has been completely decapitated. It's no longer, it has any power whatsoever. The Israelis can do whatever they want. There was a narrative out that Hezbollah was gone. It was over the days of, and Hezbollah said, no, we're not. We're just electing to act when we get ready to act. It seems to me, in a way, it was an advantage for Hezbollah to pretend to be, gone away, so that it seems to me a great shock to the Israelis when Hezbollah entered the fray and began striking Israel. I mean, easily, with at some points 100 drones and missiles. They seem to be as powerful as ever, and it seems to have been pretty much a shock, not just to Hezbollah, I think, but even to people. I mean, not just to the Israelis, but a lot of even people in the region and over here who maybe supported the resistance but thought Hezbollah was down.
You are 100% correct. Hezbollah played this ambiguity, strategic ambiguity kind of game. And, of course, the blow was hard in terms of the assassinations that happened during the 66-day war. But this strategic ambiguity allowed Hezbollah to reorganize its structures and rearm. Reorganizing its structures, it meant that anyone that was already exposed as a military leader in Hezbollah, they kept them as if they are. But there was already replacements and secret structures in cell formations. So Hezbollah kind of restructured itself from being a semi-army to a resistance militia, that everything is in secret cell formation, which made it that during the 15 months of quote-unquote ceasefire, all the assassinations that were conducted against Hezbollah leadership or military, individuals were useless for the Israelis, because these individuals were already removed from their post, but were pretended to be continuing to be in their post. And so this is very important. The other thing is that the amount of hubris that the Zionists had at the end of the 33-day war, or 66-day war, sorry, and the ceasefire here, helped Hezbollah fool them more, because they're so arrogant. Okay, they've just, they were on the euphoria of all of those assassinations, and the biggest war crime in modern history in warfare, which is those pager attacks. So Hezbollah, definitely the Israelis during the previous war were unable to touch maybe 20% of its capabilities, military capabilities. And Hezbollah played even another game to fool the Israelis, which was to allow the Lebanese military and the UNIFIL to go into bunkers or storage areas in south of the Litani. They thought that those were all the bunkers and all the storage areas or all the tunnels. There were so many of them that were handed over to the UN and to the Lebanese military that you'd think this is all of it. But as we see right now, Hezbollah is appearing from under the ground, from under the feet of advancing Zionist forces, and it has an unlimited supply of missiles that are raining on the gathering points of the Israeli military in the north of Palestine, and is using ballistic missiles to hit targets south of Haifa, including the Rafael Industries factories, where much of the drone capabilities of the Zionists are manufactured.
Yeah, that's the thing that's amazing, is that they were considered to be kind of limping along, even if they existed, and it certainly appears as if they have far greater capabilities than they even had before. It appears, and it's something that you said, there was a knowledge that at some point this war would come. It would be a regional war, a knowledge that at some point they would attack Iran. And it appears to me that a lot of the things that happened that we evaluated based on what was happening at the time, that these were part of a broader strategy. And that entire strategy was, we know this war is coming. We're going to have to fake this, and we're going to have to do all of these things. And in the appearance, people would be, upset and angry or feel that there was a defeat. But it appears to me, in my opinion, the resistance had a grand strategy planning on defeating Israel and the U.S. And the grand strategy encompassed at times appearing as though you were defeated, falling back, moving forward, but everything was saved. Maybe I'm overthinking things, but it seems to me that there was a grand strategy here.
You are not overthinking things. You're actually recognizing the instinctive things in this strategy. We were all, of course, very sad at the loss of human life and the loss of all these leaders since October 7th, 2023. And, we all wanted the war to be over as fast as possible and the defeat of the Zionists and imperialists as fast as possible. But those who have designed the Aqsa flood and all the military operations after, they were human giants. They were, geniuses that not only could see how things will play out over a period of 3 years, but that they will not be there to see the end of this, and that it will be necessary for them to be sacrifices themselves. Okay, this is very sad, and I think at the same time very indicative of the experience that we had here in Western Asia since time immemorial. The constant killing of our prophets, okay, that actually raises people to liberation, okay? The constant martyrs that unite people. The blood of our most bright that enlightens us as it's spilled, okay? So, Ismail Haniya or Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, when they launched the Aqsa flood, they knew the enemy is going to be so vicious that it couldn't withstand taking such a defeat as happened in October 7th, that it will conduct itself in the most monstrous, most animalistic way and in front of the whole world. That was necessary to happen for the Zionist ideology to be completely destroyed. Remember the last speech of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah? He literally said, "I may not be there to see it with you." He was hinting that he was going to get assassinated. There was, all these attempts to negotiate a ceasefire before he was assassinated, but he hinted in his last speech that he may be martyred right now. Similarly, Ayatollah Khamenei, he knew that he was going to be killed. Why didn't he hide? Because it was necessary. His martyrdom was necessary for the unification of the Iranian people, for us to see this total collapse of American power in Western Asia. So it is sad, everything that happened over the last 3 years, but those who led this battle on the side of the axis of resistance knew where it was going to go, knew that there were going to be sacrifices, and they accepted them all in hopes of reaching the goal of liberation of Palestine and the region from American domination.
One of the things I have to say, one of the reveals here, one of the things the world learns, and I've been saying this here for the last couple of weeks because I figured it out. We've described Iran as a regional power. Iran's not a regional power. Iran is definitely a world power. The reason being their geography, their topography. They have advantages that a lot of countries don't have. And of course, the brilliance of their, technological advances. You put all of those things together, their diplomatic advances to ally with world powers that can provide things for them. But let's not forget, you can say, yes, China and Russia are helping Iran, but let's not forget, Russia was in kind of a bind, and Iran really kind of got them out of it, providing the drones. Iran's drone technology changed the war for Russia, by providing these drones for Russia. And obviously they helped Russia to design, to make them themselves. But the capacity to shut down the world's oil, and what Iran is doing now is brilliant, because they are saying, well, we're negotiating with countries. We'll let some through. We'll not let some through. We'll let them through if they do this. We won't let them through if they do that. It's brilliant, because what it demonstrates is we're the ones in charge. The whole world's economy has to come to us. Countries have to call us and say, Mother, may I? Can I please come through? Well, maybe we'll think about it. So Iran is now exposed that they are, I'll put it like this, they're more powerful than the United States, because the United States has got to come crawling. Everybody's got to come crawling to them. Your thoughts on exposing Iran and the resistance forces, its allies, as one of the most powerful forces on the face of this earth. Might I add, they have hands they haven't even played yet, in that they can close the Red Sea also. So they have enough power to demonstrate to the world, but they haven't even played all the power that they have.
Yes, and I think the pride the Iranian people must have felt when Iran says, we have extended our sovereignty over the whole Strait of Hormuz, meaning the neighbors on the other side don't matter. We're in control here. This is a very proudful moment for a nation. Nobody can contest their sovereignty right now over the Hormuz. And look at this. Up until now, Iran hasn't destroyed the pipelines going from Turkmenistan and through Azerbaijan and the Caspian Sea through Turkey to Europe, meaning the whole oil and gas supply of Central Asia could be at any moment shut down by Iran if it chooses to. Okay, and that will be like more than 60% of the oil of the world with the Gulf gone out of the market. Okay, Iran even didn't attack the Kurdish, looted oil of Syria and Iraq that is going through Iraqi Kurdistan to Turkey. But yesterday, the president of the Kurdistan province of Iraq said, I'm closing down the oil exports through Turkey. So he's preempting the Iranians attacking and saying, please, sir, I am closing it myself. You don't have to destroy it. Okay, so this is a total capitulation from an Asian vassal regime saying, okay, I'm out of this. I don't care if America is going to cry for oil. There's not going to be export. And although all the oil of Kurdistan, Iraq is going to Israel, and my Israeli masters tell me I'm not going to do it. So this is without firing one bullet on the Kurdish oil infrastructure is out of the market. And so we may see other countries like Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan also following suit, so they don't lose hundreds of millions of dollars on infrastructure. Okay, and this is brilliant. Iran hasn't yet, as you said, closed the Red Sea with the help of Yemen yet. They haven't attacked American bases in Diego Garcia or in Djibouti. And the fact that the US right now lost all its bases in Western Asia. What's more important than that is the final end of the ability of the West as a whole to project their power, to project their sovereignty over nations through naval power. This is very important. 300 years of European colonization and projection of power through navy on nations across the world. The United States, going back to geography and how Iran is winning because partially of its geography and where it is. Well, the United States is in the end of the world. It has oceans between it and the rest of humanity. If it wants to project power over Africa, Asia, and Latin America, it has no choice but to use its navy, especially if its land bases are non-existent. So right now, the United States, if the US loses this war, which it will, the United States, for the first time in 250 years, will go back to its shores, will be unable to project power beyond its shores or its immediate neighbors like Mexico and Canada.
Well, the other thing is, there's articles in Reuters, there's articles in CNN now, and they're starting to say the day of the supercarrier is over. We see that the technology of missile, advanced technology in missiles now means that carriers can't come within 1,000 kilometers of the so-called target. Ships can't, there's some ship coming, it's Marines with 2,000 or 3,000 Marines on it. And people are saying, oh, their Marines they can't come within 1,000 kilometers. If that ship gets, the Chinese have already released satellite views of it. So the Chinese are making it clear, we've got it targeted. As soon as it gets in range, it's going to be attacked. So even the concept of naval power, it's gone. If you can't come within 1,000, so the ship's coming. It can't come anywhere near Iran. The Chinese are showing it. It's in the Philippines. And the Chinese are saying, there it is. It's being tracked the entire way. And the second it comes in any range, they'll have a laundry room fire or some kind of an unfortunate mishap on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for lint in the dryer machines. I've never heard such a ridiculous thing ever in my life. I mean, lint in the dryer machine. But I hope that American soldiers, sailors, pilots recognize that they're gonna die for no reason, and there's a lot of hope, on them to rebel, to mutiny. Of course, we heard Candace Owen and others calling on these soldiers to refuse orders. Maybe this would be one of the ways that the United States can survive, because if this continues this path, there may be an armed revolution, revolt in the United States as people start getting hungry. And the only way to avert that is for a military coup to happen, where the military that still the vast majority of American citizens trust and love and have family members in, can round up this Epstein cannibalist pedophilic class and put them in jails to save the country. This is the only path forward, I think, for the United States. So let's hope any of the armed forces members that are listening to us would recognize that we are trying to save the American people, the suffering that will come. So it's a responsibility that the armed forces have to defend the nation from internal enemies that are abusing their power, like those in charge in the United States currently.
I suspect that, the US tends to do the scapegoating thing, that Trump was whatever, compromised, goaded, and, told to do this. And in the end, he'll be the scapegoat. That it wouldn't surprise me that within the next month, because what's going to happen is things are going to go dramatically bad as far as economics. There's going to be a point where gas prices just go insane, and this thing's going to start to come apart, and they're going to need a scapegoat. And my suspect is they'll all come along and say, well, Trump is losing his marbles. He has dementia, 25th Amendment, something that they can smoothly get out of it, that they think. And they'll say, Trump's out of it. JD Vance is going to get us out of it. The problem is the Iranians are in no mood for compromise. They don't have to. As I always say, there's a Latin term, vi victus. What does that mean? Woe to the vanquished. When you lose a war, the winner will impose an ending to the war upon you. There's nothing to bargain. Trump said, yes, I wanted unconditional surrender. Yeah, there's going to be an unconditional surrender, I suspect, but it ain't going to be the Iranians signing it. So that's the thing about it. At some point, I suspect these people will be looking at their stock portfolio saying, oh my gosh, I'm worth $100 billion yesterday. Today I'm worth 60 billion. Oh no, now I'm worth 30 billion. Oh, now I'm worth 1 billion. And somewhere between 30 and 60 billion, they're going to say, get Trump out of here and give the Iranians whatever they want. I don't want to lose another dime. That's my guess.
Oh yes. And it's very important that we make this billionaire class, scream for mercy. They have been hoarding the wealth of the world over the last 30 years in unimaginable ways, like the gap between the ultra rich and the middle class has skyrocketed, nothing like in all of history of humanity. I mean, in the worst phases of human history, from the feudal era, there was less of a gap between the richest and the poorest in nations. So this is an unnatural situation. And Iran is doing us all a favor by burning the wealth of these fascist billionaires, and it should continue. People recognize even before this war started how much power these billionaire class have and how much manipulation they are using to control our minds and control our behavior, social media, AI, surveillance. And so there has to be a break. This war is a chance for all of humanity to have a break with this era and to correct the wrong paths that we were going all around the world.
One last thing. I always say there's no honor amongst thieves, right? And you can see the rats jumping off the sinking ship. Bill Crystal, Bill Crystal, neocon Zionist extraordinary, Robert Kagan, the Zionist of all Zionists, right? Let's take a look at what he's saying these days, as if things weren't bad enough for them. Let's see what he's saying. Watch this.
I must say I find it a little bit, it's kind of a syllogism when people talk about what a great ally Israel is. It is a great ally in defense of Israel. I mean,
which is fine. I mean, they're entitled to put that first, right?
No, right. That's their great concern. And look, I mean, let's face it. At the end of the day, Iran is a much greater threat to Israel than it is to the United States. So when they say that when people say that Israel is a great ally in the fight against Iran, it's kind of like saying that South Vietnam was a great ally in the fight against North Vietnam. I mean, it was, but weren't we there to defend South Vietnam?
So what we see now is Robert Kagan and the Zionists. Now, all of a sudden, Israel is not that pretty girl that they met at the bar anymore. Now, oh yeah, she's wonderful. She's their best friend. When Robert Kagan is saying, Israel's they're looking out for themselves. There is no honor amongst thieves. They screamed for this war. They yelled for it. But I will guarantee you this. They're looking at their stock portfolios saying, holy crap, I'm used to being rich. I've got a trust fund.
Yeah, look, I think the way this war is going to end, if there's no use of nuclear weapons, is that they will cease to be a Zionist colony and Israel in our land here, and Palestine will be liberated. And the Zionists have two choices, obviously. Either they fight till the death, or they just go back to Europe and the United States where they actually rule. It's unfortunate to say this, but the American public are ruled by this Zionist class. The European public are ruled by this Zionist class, and it doesn't seem like that the political class in Europe or the United States wants to take back their national sovereignty. They're fine with being ruled by the Zionists. And you know what? It doesn't matter to me as a Palestinian, as an Arab, if the Americans or the Europeans liberate themselves from control of the Zionists. If these Zionists are coming to the conclusion, we can give up Palestine because we still will be controlling two continents as the supreme chosen people in those two continents, Europe and North America, that's fine for me. And then that will be people in the US and Europe's own battle, and you have a choice. Do you want to continue this rule or not, or have your sovereignty? And if you want to go after those Zionists after they pack up from Palestine and leave. But my first priority here, watching this video, is that it seems like part of these Zionists are coming to the conclusion, might as well give up Palestine and maintain control of Europe and the United States, because the people are going to come for us if we continue this path, and thousands of American soldiers are dead and the economies in the West are dead. We're going to be cannibalized as Jews in the streets of Berlin, in the streets of Paris, in the streets of Washington, in the streets of Ottawa. That's what's going to happen. People are going to be freaking hungry and ready for vengeance, and they're going to take it out on the Jews. So seems like listening to this conversation between these two Zionist Jews is that they're like, let's save the things that we already have control and maybe give up on Palestine and let it be for the Palestinians. And either way, whether they take us all the way to the end of this path with a world war, or they give up and leave and pack, I'm happy as a Palestinian.
Well, before we go, I got to show everybody freepalestine.video. But before we do that, I'll say this. I've been saying for a while, and we've discussed it. Look, Jewish people have lived in peace. Where's the place they can live in peace? To Iran. Outside of Israel, the largest concentration of Jewish people in the Middle East is in Iran, and they live in peace and nobody bothers them, and they're allowed to, you know what I mean? Wherein they couldn't live in Saudi Arabia. Our so friend, I know a guy that was, he was surprised because he went to an airport and he got some chicken and he says, wow, this tastes just like Church's chicken. They said, yeah, that is, but they're not allowed to call it Church's chicken in Saudi Arabia. That would be illegal. That would get your head cut off. But they could, in Iran, they can have whatever they want. That's how absurd it is. So I suspect that, as you do, and we've talked about this for a while, the Jewish people, the ruling elite here, will use them as scapegoats. And when things go economically really, really bad, when people are like, oh my gosh, my economy's crashing, I've lost everything, life is a living hell, what's going on, leaders? And the leaders will say, well, we shouldn't have listened to the Jewish people. And they will, the place where there was always, where the Holocaust happened, it didn't happen in Iran. It didn't happen in the Middle East. It happened in Europe. And when things go bad, the Europeans and the Americans will look for somebody to blame. And the leaders who actually did this thing, not that there aren't billionaire Zionists involved, will say, blame the Jews. I guarantee you that. That's the sad and frightening part of it, but that's a reality.
That's the reality.
All right, let's go to Laith has an outstanding website that you need to check out, and it's called freepalestine.tv. But the way you get there is the website is freepalestine.video. That's freepalestine.video. You can look at that and you can see it's an outstanding website as it is. Certainly, we've got all kind of episodes. Make sure you click on the social media links and follow them on all their social media platforms. And of course, here you've got donate to Free Palestine TV. You can do one time or you can do monthly. You can do various types of denominations. And of course, there's amounts, or you can do a custom amount. So freepalestine.video is where you want to go, and you want to follow them on all their social media platforms. So you can keep, it's in English language. That's the other good thing. So that people in the West, people like you, all 979 people in the chat right now that are watching this, so that you all get an opportunity to see what's going on from the perspective of people in the region, but it's in your language. And make sure, if you can afford to donate, and also everyone, freepalestine.video should be shared on all your social media platforms. And when you share it, make a little note on there, a little part of your post that asks people to donate when they get there. This is very important work that Laith is doing. Laith, we thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. I'm going to be traveling for the next couple of weeks. So the next 2 Mondays at least, I will be out of the country, but hopefully I'll stay in touch, and we'll talk. And maybe, who knows, if I'm able to at some point record something and put it up, we'll do it. All right.
Well, bon voyage, Garland. Take care. Okay, Habibi, see you soon.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Certainly appreciate everybody who donates to this channel, the Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee, and all that people. That's highly appreciated. I've got a P.O. box for anybody who wants to send snail mail for any reason. Make sure you share this on all your social media platforms. We're out.